Good morning and welcome. It's day 12 of Vlogmas. I've got a question for you. Do you regularly go to a Christmas market? We had huge plans this year to go to Bruges for the Christmas market in Belgium, but because of coronavirus and restrictions, and it just got too complicated. So instead we jumped on the train yesterday, 30 minutes up the line, and we went to Rochester for the Rochester Christmas market, which was a lovely, lovely thing to do. But before I share more about that, I've got a few things I need to do. First of all, I've got to shake up my non-alcoholic sloe gin. So if you remember from day one of Vlogmas, I showed you how to make your non-alcoholic sloe gin, and now's it time to give it a shake. As you can see, the lovely ruby red colour is starting to develop. It's still a bit pale though, and I've got one sloe that's floating at the top, but the others are all settled at the bottom. So I just need to shake it every day to make sure that the sugar has dissolved and to encourage the skins to break open, and that's what will give the sloe gin its lovely colour. You saw me make my tabletop woodland with my real and artificial Christmas trees a couple of days ago. I was putting out all my Bottlebrush trees yesterday, and I've decided to corral them in a wooden crate that my brother-in-law has made me. And as I was going through them, I was thinking, do I need all these? I must have about 15 or 20 of them. And I was going to put these two in, well, I was going to put this one into the bag for the charity shop. It's got a plastic base, and all my other trees have got wooden bases, or just look a little bit more vintage. And this one, as I was trying to get it to stand upright, has lost its base. So what did I do? I thought, I'm not going to move the piece of furniture to try and find the plastic base. And what I ended up doing is I thought, I don't want to have the base somewhere and then the tree somewhere else. So I just chucked this Christmas tree behind the radiator, thinking, when I pull out all the furniture in January to give everything a good old spring clean, at least the base and the Christmas tree will be close together. And then I thought, actually, why don't I do something different instead? I was inspired by a thumbnail I saw to a video posted by Yvonne, the Ginger Chick Rehab. And I thought, she had Bottlebrush trees, and they seem to have quite bulbous bases. And I thought, I wonder whether she's used air drying clay to replace her plastic bases with a nicer looking base. And as it turned out, she hadn't, but it just gave me that hint of an inspiration. So I've dived back into the charity shop to retrieve this, and I dived back down behind the radiator to retrieve my Bottlebrush tree that didn't have a base to it. And then all I needed to do was to find my leftover package of air dry clay. So what I'm going to do is to get a ball of clay, impale both of them actually into the clay, let them dry, and then once it's dry, I'll probably need to take them out and put a dab of hot glue in, just so it makes sure it stays and is secure for, who knows, years and years to come. I've got a tiny bit of the DAS clay left, and I don't know whether to save some clay thinking, will I use it for another project, or to be really generous in order that I'm not left with a tiny amount. So I'm going to soften it up in my hands and just work it until it's not getting any obvious cracks. Roll it round, like a large marble, and then I'm going to squash it slightly. So I guess what I've got here really is a sort of pebble-shaped disc, and then to take my tree and to push it down the top. And I think that looks loads nicer than my plasticky base, and it's going to fit in more with the vintage wooden vibe that I've got going on with my crate of trees. I've been such a busy bee this weekend. So before I tell you about our adventures at the Christmas market, I just wanted to show you my red transferware plates, which if you're a regular viewer, you'll have seen loads of times before. But yesterday I put on the little sticky hangers, and I've left them overnight, so they should be ready to hang on my kitchen wall. I'm going to take down 3 of my blue transferware plates and put these 3 up instead. So what I need to do when I was putting on the hangers was just to make sure that the loopy bit, the hanger bit, was at the top where the picture hangs. If you rely on the back mark on the plate, you're going to end up with your hanger in the wrong place, and your picture isn't going to sit up straight. So let me tell you about our trip to Rochester Market. So we walked down to the train station in town, got it a little bit fine, but we did arrive 4 minutes before the train went, and then it's about a half-hour journey across to Rochester. So first of all, we went up Rochester High Street, which is a medieval high street, and they quite often have market stalls in the high street. So there seemed to be a little sort of vintage market going on, and I bought myself this bowl, and it's what I'd like to think of as being a dough bowl. So there's loads of American YouTubers that I watch, and they all seem to have these huge dough bowls on their kitchen tables and on their sides, and they stack it up with decor and things like that. So this is not something at all that I'm familiar with living in the UK. So I thought this was rather nice. It's got a flat bottomed base on it and curved sides, and that costs me £8. So what I'm going to do is a little bit dirty inside. I'm going to give that a wash, and I am thinking of putting it on our coffee table. And because it's got a flat base, I thought I might put candles in it, but I thought it might be a good place to sort of corral our TV remote, put some festive greenery in, perhaps some of my favourite baubles I don't want to hang on the Christmas tree. And then in the event it needs moving off the coffee table, it just means I can lift it off like a tray all in one go, and I'm not having to take away individual items. Needless to say, we did go to every single charity shop in town as well, and didn't really spot anything that I wanted to buy. So we circled back round past the cathedral, making a mental note to visit the cathedral. I could see a glimpse of the Christmas tree and their Advent candles through the door, and we headed straight up the hill into the castle grounds. So Rochester was originally a city. I think it lost its city designation, but that's a moot point locally. It's got a cathedral and a castle, and I think it's probably a Norman castle. It's got a square Norman tower. I'm not a historian, don't quote me on that. And then the castle grounds, it was all set up for the Rochester Christmas market. So we went up the little hill, and there were loads of signs everywhere saying we had to wear our masks, because even though it was open air, there were a lot of people there. Now, part of the reason that I wanted to go to Rochester Market was I have lived in Kent for 30 years, and I don't think I've ever been to the Rochester Christmas Market before. I might have been once, possibly twice, but I don't really remember it. But the thing I do remember is this Rochester, the Christmas market always has a snow machine. And if you've been watching my videos, I've talked about the weather at Christmas before. It very rarely snows here in the southeast of England. And 30 years ago, this snow-making machine was really exciting. And to be perfectly honest, I found it pretty exciting as well to see that it was snowing in about a 2 metre square area in the town yesterday. So I think it's sort of soap suds that get squirted out of a jet. So I'm hoping that the footage I'm going to show you does show a little bit of that snow falling down. And when it fell on the ground, it did look quite lifelike, and it was sticking to people's coats. So I got my husband to take a photograph of me, and wearing my mask and not wearing my glasses because I couldn't see through them at this point. So really, we didn't really do much at the market. It was absolutely packed. And there was a marquee area with sales tents and Christmas crafts and all that kind of thing. But we weren't in the market really for buying anything. We weren't really in the market for the fun fair, and we weren't really in the market for eating and drinking. So all we were doing was just really soaking up the atmosphere, and it did have a really, really festive vibe. There was a little Christmas tree sales area, people selling door wreaths. There was even a stand selling roasted chestnuts. So at that point, my husband and I parted company. He decided he wanted to go off for a pint, and I wanted to go and look in the cathedral just to see how it was decorated for Christmas. And when I got there, it was just on 4 o'clock, and I noticed that the cathedral closed at 4 o'clock every day, so I didn't get to see the cathedral at all. But it did give me the opportunity to go to Bly's Bargain Books, and whenever I go to Rochester, I always go to the bookshop. It is absolutely cram-packed, and it's quite a deep shop, so you walk through and through and through and through. And for all those years I've been going to the bookshop, probably the last 15 years or so, I know exactly where to head for the flower arranging books. And when I got down to the end of the shop, the only book I could find was a book on Ikebana, Japanese flower arranging. I thought, this is a bit disappointing, but perhaps flower arranging is having a renaissance and everybody is out for flower arranging books. And then I just shifted my focus a bit, and a couple of racks to the side, I found the shelf of flower arranging books. So there's one shelf of flower arranging books, And in that shelf I found a book by Constance Spry, which is the duplicate of what I've got. But I did think that perhaps my ladies on my free Facebook group, Flower Start World, might be interested in buying that from me. And the other book I bought was by Lorette Swift, and it was published in 1954. And I will try and remember to flick through the book. It's absolutely fantastic because, of course, number one, published in the 1950s, it's just so old-fashioned. Not only in the sense of the flower arrangements, but in the sense of the mindset. And the lady talks about going to speak to your florist, always referring to the florist in the masculine, things like that. But it's a really good read. And if you get beyond just looking at the pictures in your flower arranging books and actually read the text, they are just so informative. And especially now when we're trying to be more environmentally aware and use less flower foam, it's got some really, really great tips on how to arrange flowers in their natural state using twigs and pin holders and all sorts of techniques and mechanics for basically not using flower foam, because of course at that time flower foam would have been something, I don't know whether it was manufactured in 1954, probably a bit too early, but it was something that was coming in on the horizon as a new development, and it really took over from all the foam-free ways of arranging flowers. So I hope you enjoyed following along with me as I went to the Christmas market yesterday. If you go to a Christmas market regularly, I'd love to hear what you like doing at the Christmas markets, whether you're there to shop, soak up the general atmosphere. And if you're watching this video and there is a Christmas market taking place near you in the next couple of weeks, leave details of it, and then other people who are watching the video who might live locally to you could go along and then join in the fun as well. That's all from me for now, and I'll see you again tomorrow.